I remember going to the Adult Authority Board in Soledad and sitting in front of the board members trying to get released, and they told me, they said, we have a letter of recommendation from the district attorney in your county, and I could see it like it was yesterday in big, bold letters. It said, David Lewis is a hopeless criminal type that should be incarcerated at the state level for the rest of his life. I guess for me at that particular time, I had just really accepted the lifestyle that I had lived or that I was living. It was just going to be a continuous thing. Why don't somebody just really get hip to me, you know, and put me out of my misery, either kill me or just throw away the key, because this is ridiculous. I'm mind myself and everybody else with this game that we're playing. I was a kind of a kid that I didn't have any brothers and sisters, you know, and I can remember the first time that I really realized that it bothered me was I went to spend the night over at one of my friend's house, and he had brothers and sisters, and it was different from when I went home. When I came in the house at night, it's like automatically I had to turn into an adult because the adults was there and they didn't go for no childish stuff, and I had to act like an adult, and it was so different when I went to spend the night over my friend's house. It's like you guys talk about the spelling beans and stuff. I would shun away from that kind of stuff. I would try to get away because I didn't want to participate, because I couldn't, it was like a broken record. I could get to a point and then it just wouldn't go through. It would just get to that point and click like that. And as a result of that, I gravitated towards people that didn't expect that of me. They expected me to be able to fight. They expected me to be able to start participating in some criminal activity. Something in my gut, I guess, that still made me want to succeed. And I was trying to find things to do that didn't involve reading or writing or spelling and all of that kind of stuff. And sports came into play. Sure. I learned at that particular time that, and it's something that I practice or anything, but I had a real gift for fighting. And for some reason or another, I guess that's just, you know, in our society as males, it's like when you can be physical like that, nothing else matters. And I remember when my father would take me to Fisherman's Wharf, and he would put a nickel in that binocular thing out there, and he would make me look at Alcatraz, and he used to tell me, see, you're gonna wind up there if you don't get a handle on yourself and don't get an education. That's where you're gonna wind up. I found alcohol, I think I was about 12, and I took the nerve, I got enough courage in me to take a drink. By myself, see? Because first it was like, you know, my father drank and I would drink a little of his beer and we'd be on a fish bank or something like that. But for some reason or another, for me to take that first drink, to make a conscious decision to take a drink myself, and I took a drink, and it was some kitchen wine that my mother had in there. It changed it the way that I felt. Now I had drank White Lightning and stuff when I was kids, but it was like it was somebody else and was responsible for it. But I made a conscious decision to take a drink. I was 12, and it changed it, all of that, right? My dark skin and nappy hair, none of that stuff didn't matter after I took that drink. And as a result of that, I continued to try to use anything to change the way that I felt. We were going to the Monterey Jazz Festival one year, me and about 6 of us. And we had new cars and all that kind of stuff. We were pickpockets and thieves and stuff like that. And we went to the guy's house to buy the cocaine to take to the Monterey Jazz Festival with us, and he didn't have any. He told us, he said, wait. He said, a guy that's gonna bring it, but you guys are gonna have to wait. And he had some white powder on the table. I said, well, what is that? He said, you don't want none of that. And I reached in it with a matchbook cover and took a couple of snorts, and I saw the look on his face. It was synthetic white heroin, and it was raw. It would take like maybe a 21 And the minute that drug started to drain down in my system, and it felt like my feet was on fire, and then that fire moved through my body, the feelings of being okay intensified more than anything that I had did to change the way that I felt, the feeling of heroin. I turned my will and my life over to the care of heroin and didn't care about anything else. I'm talking about there was nothing that could stop me, or sure, I tried to participate and act like, or to a certain extent be involved in some stuff that didn't have anything to do with dope, but ultimately my thinking got to a place where I used whatever or whoever to participate so that I could be participated in the use of heroin. Drawbacks was very physical, and you would have aching bones and runny nose and all of that kind of stuff, and it was a serious situation. You want to feel physically sick. Right. And so I started to really participating in a whole lot of criminal activity. I was scared to sell drugs. I was really scared to sell drugs. It seemed like to me, people that sold drugs, that was a real easy way out. It wasn't no lot of skills in selling drugs. You get some drugs, you put some other kind of cut on it, and you make some more, and you sell it to some people that's less fortunate. That didn't excite me. What excited me was the instant gratification and the adrenaline rush of being able to go into a store, right, and shortchange. To be able to take a person's and turn them, make them open a cash register and turn them to think about something else and go into that cash register. To be able to go into somebody's store or house with a pump shotgun and pump it and shoot it up in the air, and when the ceiling starts to fall on their head, to watch the fear in their eyes, and then they couldn't even see your face after that. They wouldn't, when the police came and say, well, give us a description, and they didn't have a clue. All they saw was that shotgun and that shit falling on their head. That was something that was a real, seemed like to me, it was the skill of being a criminal. Ultimately, what happened, me and three other guys were, I think I was 18, and it was on a Sunday night. We robbed a gas station down in Sunnyvale, and we got arrested, and I think we got about I know we got $156 out of this gas station robbery, and we got arrested, and I remember it was kind of like this, the jail, I went to the county jail, and the jail experience was so new for me till it just seemed like one big weekend, learning all of this stuff, what happens in jail. But reality set in when I stood in front of the judge, and like I said, I was 18 years old, and the judge sentenced me to the California Department of Corrections for the time that the law prescribed. It was prison. It was the penitentiary that I had heard people talk about. It was the penitentiary that my father took me out over and looked at over Alcatraz and said, that's where, you bad people are gonna wind up. And I guess when I realized and acknowledged that drugs had sent me to this penitentiary place, I needed to find out a way not to participate in it anymore. But what I quickly realized, even in the penitentiary, that I couldn't stop. It's like what you were saying. I couldn't stop. When drugs and alcohol came into the prison, there was nothing that I was involved in or anything that I was doing that would make me not use it, would not participate in it. Even though I didn't want to, it was like I realized that this thing that I'm doing is very destructive, and I don't want to do it, but I couldn't stop doing it. And I think I spent, I guess maybe at that time, I spent about 2 years in the joint, and I got out, and you spoke about it, friends, and we have friends, and they have good counseling in the joint. A lot of people don't realize what kind of advice they have in the joint, and they told me, they said, okay, you're getting out, young blood, you're getting out, Okay, and don't do this, and don't be with those people, and don't do this, and go over here and do that. Somebody told me, said, well, if you don't do what you did last time, you'll be all right. And I said, that's the one I grabbed hold to. It wasn't that I needed to change my life. It's like, just don't do what you did last time, and you'll be all right. So that's when I crossed the line over into trying to sell drugs, because it seemed like they said, well, that other stuff got you here, but if you do something else, you'll be all right. So I started trying to sell drugs. And what happened was I got a grand jury indictment. I sold an undercover narcotic agent $20 worth of dope. And the grand jury indicted me, and what happened, in about 30 days, I was back here. And this time I had a 10 to life sentence, from 10 years to life. 22 years old. And for me, that meant it was over. You know, I saw people that was in this prison that had those kind of sentences, and it was like, they lived like it was no tomorrow. And what happened for me, I came back here and I started to live like that. I started to live like, you know, the tomorrow wasn't promised. It might sound very insane to hear a person say this, but I got comfortable in jail, and it was an easier, softer way. I didn't have to worry about where I was going to be, how I was going to be fed. I didn't have to worry about paying the rent. I didn't have to worry about how who was going to put a deposit down on the light bills. 60% of me was okay with that lifestyle, not to have to struggle, not to have to make rational decisions, not to have to set goals, not to have to see that frustrating look in your mother's face when you don't eat all your dinner. It's like, you don't want to eat all your dinner, and do you know how we had to get this dinner? You better eat all that dinner. It was like, in there, you ate what you want to, and you walked to the garbage, and you throw the rest of that shit in the can and moved on, you know. So that became, like I said, that kind of lifestyle became something that I really kind of gravitated towards. And then what intensified it for me was the use of heroin, because if I wanted to at that particular time do something different, the heroin kept me stuck in that situation. I'm talking about seriously stuck. I thought about times where I might want to stop using, but when I thought about those times that I might want to stop using, it's like, well, what else would I do?